Okay,
You got yours, Ken?
we're all good to go.
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay, okay, everybody's good to go?
Kinda.
Okay. I'll call to order the March 14th, 2018 meeting of the Oregon State Library Board. Present are Don Wright, Ken Hall, Larry Osborne, Scott Edwards, Nick Dierkman, and Jan Wallander, and staff Maureen Cole and Denise Butcher. Welcome, everybody. I'll have the agenda. I'll just do a first quick check any changes in the agenda for today. No? Okay. And we don't have any public, so I guess we don't need to worry about public.
We do, but
Yes, we do.
remember,
we do have
we are
the
being
public.
watched.
That's right. And people watch, because I hear people say, I saw you on TV.
Kind of
So,
terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are watched. So our first agenda item will be approval of the minutes from the February 2018 meeting. They were sent out to you. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review them. Again, thanks to Denise. Excellent. Appreciate the detail. There aren't any changes or people had an opportunity. Somebody wants to make a motion to approve the February meeting minutes?
So move.
It's moved, second?
Second.
I've been moved in second to approve
Wait,
the,
who got that second?
I think I heard Larry.
Okay, all right. I think three
it's a
guys.
tie.
It's like a triple tie.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes for the February meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So the minutes are approved. So the mayor wondering who was sitting in his chair.
He's still been watching.
Did you really?
Okay, our first agenda item is the director's report.
Great. Well, good afternoon, Library Board. So nice to see you, and so glad that we got most of our technology working for today. So, as I said in my report, one of the things that I changed this month about the statistics is I added social media statistics. And what that means is that I added Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, which are the ones that we have a presence on. And I just noted how many likes or how many followers or whatever the topical language is for that platform. I just noted where we are, so we can kind of see how it increases. And just want you to know that at 2,651 likes on Facebook, we are the most liked library in Clackamas County. But we are sadly far behind the police department. Before we feel too good about ourselves, the Oregon City Police Department is well over 9,000. So, not that it's a competition or anything.
It's okay. It might be a competition between the police and fire.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure
Let's
the
not go
police
there.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Let's not even get started on that. And I could tell you one I heard just today from the police chief. Anyway, so let's see, as far as other statistics, we are looking very strong. I wanted to note one thing in particular. As I have mentioned in the last few months that circulation is going down and it's a national trend. Well, I got to looking at these statistics again, and I went back through my numbers from previous months to make sure that what I've been tracking is the same number from month to month, the same value, right? And I suspect that I may have gone astray at some point. So we get like this huge page of statistics from the county, from our network office, huge page of statistics. And I could pass them all to you, and maybe people who are really interested in statistics would like to look at them, although it doesn't have what you're looking for. But under the circulation, it has a lot of information, and I pull out things. And so what this represents in direct loans to public is for the adult, all the adult materials, that number represents first-time checkouts and renewals, okay? And what I think I was doing for like maybe the last 3 months or something was just putting in first-time checkouts. And so that's why it looked lower than the number that we've been comparing it to from last year. Somewhere along the line, I lost my head and started like looking at the wrong number. So I went back and I corrected, made sure everything was right until to the beginning of this year, July 1. And made sure at least from then on, we're looking at all the same right things. If we get to the point where we're looking at previous, like when we get far enough down the road where we're looking at the previous and there seems to be a big discrepancy, I can go back farther and make sure they're okay. But I think for now. So what I'm happy to report is that our trend, and I should have brought back to your report from the last couple months, but at any rate, our trend is going up, and you can see specifically where the numbers are higher. So for instance, with the adult, and this is first-time renewals and renewals now is what we're looking at, we're about 400 more than this time last year in adult. In YA, we're about 350. In juvenile, we're like almost 2,000. And then I give you a sub number there, because that's, you know, materials we can touch, right? And then we've got the library to go and all the E stuff, and that's up by 800. And so you can kind of see specifically where the increases are, how much they are, and now you know what they represent as well. So now the ebooks could be renewals as well, because even though digitally you should be able to check something out forever, that's not what the business model is, and it acts just like a regular book. Okay? So just wanted to explain that to you, since we were like kind of looking at statistics and making sure that like we know what we're looking at. And then the other thing I've been doing is kind of just going in and making sure that like they're more readable. They're just like really messy, like everything clumped together. I hate that. I like things separated in groups so that if you're looking at it, you can like see where one thing stops and the next thing starts, because otherwise your spreadsheet's just a mess. So under, and self-checks, now the next statistic, self-check, you can see that we obviously got RFID self-checks since last year, because that number is almost double. So at some point in time, you know, that'll start looking more similar as well.
May I comment on that? I just
Yes.
love that machine.
Yay,
I
that's
checked out a
awesome.
book today. It was so easy. I wanted to check out another one.
Yeah, hey, go for it. That just increases our numbers.
Yeah, you can see the dramatic areas where I think the total door count's now starting to level off, and it's seen those
Yep.
big dramatic, because we're now been open a year. and so
Exactly.
it's still, but it's still inching
Yeah,
up, but
it's
not-
still incrementally going up. It's still getting busier, but yeah, it's not that huge increase. But that's good. Now we're comparing
Yeah.
apples to apples for like the past year. Because we've now been officially in the entire new building for about a year and 4 months, about 16 months. So that's good. But we're still seeing increases, which is amazing.
Which is good.
And then under the holds area, just to remind you, I changed this. I don't know why we used to add this up, but now we're subtracting these. So what we want to see is the received from other libraries and the sent to other libraries more balanced. So if those would each change by about 3,000, we'd be like, beautiful. So we want received going down about 3,000 to about 10,000, 11,000, and then sent to other libraries going up. So that it shows that we are like contributing just as much as what we're receiving.
But the scent has really jumped up, I think, from,
Pardon?
the scent here jumped up from last year.
Well, and the
Up,
cent
yeah.
has jumped up,
Yeah.
and so therefore the difference has decreased,
Yeah.
which is really good. So yeah, that is excellent. Yeah, and that's what we want to see more of. So that will take time, but just as long as we see a trend going in the right direction, I think we're fine on that. And then reference, well, you know, patrons and children's was about the same, but patrons and reference was like way up. However, I wouldn't get too excited yet, because we're just notoriously not consistent about tracking those. You know, it's a really hard thing to track when you're busy, especially. It's like you want to show how busy you are and you have no time to like track it at all. And like there are some places that like don't even track statistics or this kind of statistic, except maybe like 2 weeks a year at different intervals. You know, because it is so notoriously hard to like really get a good feel of. Just know that if you were to talk to our reference librarians, they are very, very busy. So there's that. And then programs is also going up. You can see that the children's programs actually are the same numbers last year, which is kind of not surprising, but attendance is higher. So more people are attending each program, which is nice. And then there's a little bit more going on with teen, YA, which is nice. And then adult programs doubled, and you can see our attendance like tripled, which is super nice. So still some improvements there. I don't know why I don't have the cultural passes from last year. Don't. Registrations are down, but I mean we're kind of in that area again where there's kind of a regular range every year. Even though you would think like after a while you'd hit everybody, there's just this kind of ongoing amount of people that like their card is no longer valid. They have to replace it. They haven't used it in a really long time. It's just kind of consistent actually. So it's always, around 250 or so. So I don't think that number really means anything in particular. And then we've got the social media stuff that I added. Processing, we added, not that much last month. The month before, I think we were at 1,500. So that kind of comes in waves too, because selectors order in waves because they get really busy with certain things and then they get pulled away from selecting. And we have 3 people selecting in the building. We have the adults. Well, actually, we have more than that. We have Gina and Jennifer doing adult stuff. And then we have Barrett mostly doing all children's. And then Denise does all AV, by the way. And I do nothing because, directors don't know how to do anything. And then our money is basically flat, basically the same as last year, which makes sense to me too. So that's what's going on. I was telling Nick that on Friday, several of us are getting training in how to do reports on our system. And at that point in time, I think that will really help us be able to kind of dig into the database and see like what we can get after as far as, and it's going to be really interesting to find out as far as like if we can tell if somebody is out of the city or in the city, who's getting served kind of. And so we'll be poking into that as soon as we have better access to the database and know a little bit more about what we're doing.
Can I ask a question about reference? Because
Yeah.
I'd be interested in sort of more the qualitative. What kind of questions come to the reference librarians?
Oh my
And
God,
do those things
everything
change
under the
over
sun.
time?
Yeah.
If there are trends there that tell you something about what
Oh, like topics?
topics or
They
just
do-
skill sets or
Yeah.
just, yeah.
They don't track that. I could ask them. I mean, they would probably remember, but it would be anecdotal. They do break it down into something like, this is a total from what I get. They break it down into what?
There's first level, second level, and computer.
Okay.
The 3 things that they.
So second level is the more longer in-depth,
Yeah.
more like
Time-
research
time-wise.
questions. First level, I don't know that we we don't write down directional, like where's the bathroom? We don't write that down. That's not a reference question. So, and then, it's kind of hard because some questions are like, might take a half an hour or so and they, it's not really noted anywhere how much time things take,
I was just curious. I mean, that's more interesting than just total numbers personally. But, and I can see why people might just do it, a couple times a year and do a little more in-depth look.
Yeah,
at it.
and you might be able to, yeah. We could look at that.
First level, I think, is more of you have books on this subject, or you have this specific book. Where second level is they're doing some research for them.
But there are reference things that we just say, we can direct you here, but we cannot do that research for you. So for instance, genealogy.
Yeah.
We got a request last week and it was kind of an interesting thing because the guy had the same last name as a local name. He's like, but I'm not related to that family. And I'm like, okay, right there, I know it's, even if we like would take this on, that's going to make it way too complicated, and we don't do genealogy. We refer them to some online things and the genealogy club, and it's like, yeah, because those things are snake's nests. Yeah. So.
Any other questions on statistics? Anybody?
Let me see if there's anything else interesting on the report. Well, we could talk more about strategic planning when we talk about the guiding principles. Just to let you know, so the selectors have started placing the orders for and receiving the orders for the money that the foundation gave them. So Gina has placed all of her orders with the for the adult services, like half, and Barrett hasn't started, but that's actually okay, because then we can get in a bunch of, all the adult stuff, and then the children's stuff can start coming in. So Gina is super excited. She is rearranging like a whole bunch of shelves up in the upstairs, and she is also integrating paperbacks and oversize into the regular collection. So we'll see how that goes. Because, the oversized thing, you can have like one giant book and that's it for the entire shelf. And you've given up all that space. So we'll see how it lays out before I start getting worried that we're giving up too much shelving for that. But it will be nice to point people just one place for one thing, so.
Good for the people too.
Then that's the idea, right? We want to be patron friendly as much as possible. So, and then unfortunately, the library board possibility that Don sent us, he lives just on the other side of the dividing line, and he would be perfect for the Estacada Library Board, because he would have been perfect for us too. He sounded awesome.
Yeah,
And I was so sad.
He thought he lived in our district.
Yeah, well, and it's really hard to tell. I had to go to the county and find out because it looks suspicious. And then he said, well, I own a house in town. I'm like, yeah, you don't live there. I'm sorry. I just, I wanted to be really on the up and up with it. So he sounded like a great guy. And then we had somebody contact me just recently, but the website for the city, he couldn't get it to work for an application process. And so I wrote back and said, well, if you just want to send me a resume and a statement of interest or anything like that. But I haven't heard back from him. So, but hopefully he'll get back in touch. So that's where we kind of are with that. I'm not overly concerned about it because we have a quorum and, however, it's out of city representation. So there's already only 2 people on the makeup of the board that are always outside the city. So anyway, so we'll see where that goes.
So we should all keep our eyes open.
Yeah, definitely. And especially if somebody that has children or something that we're not representing here. I know we were already talking about this at the Friends meeting, that people who have young children have no time. So, but unfortunately, that's who we'd really like to hear from, So.
Or just, children, school-age children.
Yeah, well, any age children, yeah. So that's what I've got for this month.
Somebody not retired besides Scott.
Yeah.
Okay. And then LDAC is sort of, or do you want to talk about that later under
Let's talk about that under communications,
okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, any other questions for Mo about library director's report?
Okay.
Great first Friday film this month. People went there. It was excellent.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
I did too. I super enjoyed those films because I don't, I'm not attracted to documentaries. They always sound good, but then I can't make myself watch them. Do you know what I mean? It's I want fairy tales and lighter stuff, but I always enjoy them when I see them, especially when there's somebody there who can talk about the topic. So, and the group is always fabulous that attends. So yeah,
What was the title of this one?
13th
13th.
is about the 13th Amendment and incarceration. It was really, really interesting. And the next one is Seed, the Untold Story. And it is, the directors live in Portland. So, so at least one of
Untold
them.
Story of Seeds. I don't know what the title means.
I don't know either. We'll have to ask them.
Okay.
Yeah. But I know Jackie Hammond Williams from the Farmers Market is all excited and going to invite a bunch of her friends to come. So that would be great. And it's great to have the directors come too. So at least we'll get one of them. John Betts. Yeah. Okay, strategic planning update and discussion. So just to update you before we go into looking at the guiding principles, if that's what you want to do. We are now to the point where we've put together a stakeholders group and we are trying to find times for when to meet. And, well, we knew this was going to be impossible, and Scott and Ken, right? No, Scott and Larry. Thank you for being so available as you are. So, it looks probably good for you guys. But
But it's filling up.
Huh?
It's filling up.
Well,
So we want to get a date soon so I can.
we're
tell
gonna
other
get a
people.
date like by tomorrow, because I was waiting for the city manager to, weigh in on when he was available. But the most people that probably can come out of like the 16 or so that we invited would be like 11. So we're just gonna have to kind of choose some dates and then send it out there to everybody and say, you know, if you can't make this, you know, try and make one, or if you can't make any, then sorry. Because we got to get moving on it. So we will be doing that in May. We'll send 2 May dates to you, and yeah, it is filling up. So, and I really wanted to get that done before summer started too, before like June. So that's there, and I think we're right on track with it. We're having a staff meeting tomorrow with just like a small group of staff. And we're looking at the vision and mission statement and looking at potentially rewriting those with some ideas that we got from the big staff group.
And you were looking for, back to the stakeholders group, you were interested in finding somebody from schools or education? Were you successful?
I did get a principal. I got the name of a principal. Now, whether she'll be able to come on the days that we like have determined the most other people can come, that's the thing. It's like who I am missing on those dates is going to be kind of sad, I think. You know, so I've got to try and figure out some way to involve them if possible. So that's there. And then in addition to the stakeholders meeting, the thing that the library board was most involved in previously were the guiding principles, which I sent to you guys.
So I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at these. They were sent out. Any overall comments?
Well, I remember doing these, how many years ago?
4 or 5.
4 or 5, you know. I thought they were good then, and I've read them over a couple times now, when at home and here. They still are very grand. I think there are still goals to be achieved here. It doesn't look like we've serving as a community center, we sort of did that before. We're a lot more better at that now, I think. So maybe that could be looked at as a community center, and then what, you know, something like that. But the rest of them, I think we could talk about them and see how we're doing, and I don't know. I like them.
I mean, I guess one way to think, is there anything here that is no longer a guiding principle? I mean, I didn't see anything. So is there anything that doesn't really feel like a guiding principle? And then is there something missing that we think should be a guiding principle?
I have a more general question.
Sure.
How are the guiding principles used in the strategic plan? Where does it fit within a strategic?
Well, like literally fits vision, mission, guiding principles prior to like goals and objectives. And so I think what the guiding principles do is help expand on the vision and mission And so, I think like right now, since we may be going into a process of rewriting our vision and mission, I think it's a good time to look at these, but I think we'll want to come back and look at them once the vision and the mission is decided upon.
Yeah.
And make sure that these are still in alignment with the direction of the vision and the mission. So as staff, we're going to look at it tomorrow more closely, the vision and the mission, but then that goes to the stakeholders group, because that's like, we definitely want input on vision and mission from the stakeholders group.
When I looked at them, from a content standpoint, I understood, and they make sense. It probably can be some tuning or whatever. But I was trying to look at a similar, the Riverwalk, the Legacy Project, and I know they have guiding principles, and they're very succinct. It's like, when I went through, it looked like some of these could fit under, like if I had a title, I could fit them under the same title. And so I think of it in terms of like strategic planning or even guidance for your organization, or I look at it from the standpoint of if whatever I'm doing or whatever I'm planning, where does it stack up against those guiding principles? And I guess your goal would be to get have as many of those used or followed whatever you're doing. So that's sort of where I was trying to figure out exactly where it fit in terms of the process and then even ongoing, how you really use those. But I know with the Legacy Project, I know that I forget how many, is it 4 or 5 different?
It's 4.
4, okay.
4 values.
4 values.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was thinking maybe if it were just as a suggestion, a thought, is that maybe it is 4 or 5, and maybe these are sub bullets underneath of those in some cases that further expand on those. And I'm not necessarily thinking one word titles or whatever, but something very succinct. So you could talk about it and say, where does this fit? Are we really considering our guiding principles when we're making these decisions?
Right.
Just a thought.
So if I look at what you've got, the current vision, I mean, you're right, some of the vision kind of is repeated again in the guiding principles. I was just saying, if the vision is Oregon City Public Library is a community anchor, inspires literacy and lifelong learning, strengthens community, supports an understanding of Oregon City's past and present in order to build its future. Those are kind of like a little bit more succinct.
Right.
Some of these guiding principles kind of repeat some of that or kind of reiterate that.
But I think, at least for me, the mission is more, I'll say squishy. It's not as easy to hold it. I mean, yes, you should hold it up, but it's not as easy to hold it up and say, did we do, how does this really fit against all these, these 4 or 5 guiding principles that we have? That's just, again, my view of it, if that makes sense.
Well, I think this is the first time when we did this last round that I actually used guiding principles. And I mean, to be frank, I don't even remember where they came from or whose concept it was. So it's kind of new to me to have those. I really like them, but when I look at the strategic planning process that we're going through right now, some of these are actually kind of similar to our service responses. And so the book that we're using, Planning for Results, it has 18 service responses. Strange word, but they're kind of like areas of work that a library can do, right? And the goal is to select like 4 to 6 that you really, really emphasize. And so, and then some of them, it's not like you don't ever do anything in the rest of them, but you may not focus a lot of resources on them. And when I look at these are very similar to some of those areas. And so like early literacy, lifelong learning, the historical aspect. Yeah, I mean, this goes into like excellence in customer service and staff. So a service response wouldn't be there because it's not about staff. It's about what we provide to the community. So there's a few things here that wouldn't fit there, but some of these are kind of similar to that too. So, you know, I don't really have a good answer for you. I like where you're going with the kind of the value statement, which seems like that would add value to a vision and a mission. I mean, the vision is where you want to go, and the mission is what you do, right? At a very simplistic form. And guiding principles or succinct values or whatever is like maybe like the value statement of like how you're doing it or why you're doing it or whatever. Not like a goal or objective, but like, you know, what we are demonstrating that we value in. So I don't know. We could look at these, you know, differently. Or this could be kind of like what those are saying, but we could make it more succinct for sure.
And maybe values is a good way to look at it.
Maybe so.
I mean, from just separate it from what you were describing, because I understand what you were saying too about there's 18, but, and you're gonna, you know, select four or five, 4 to 6 that are the primary ones that you're focused on.
Yeah.
And that is sort of some of the concept that similar to what I was thinking also, but it would, I mean, you have a different methodology
Right.
that you're following, so.
Yeah, but I mean, like a service response, one of them is early literacy, for instance. Well, we don't value early literacy for early literacy's sake. We value early literacy because we really want to raise an informed and engaged, you know, citizenry, right? And being literate and being able to understand information is part of that. So like, name that value, and then what you're doing is you're doing your best to provide all the activities that help enable early literacy. So that's the way I'm kind of looking at this, if that sounds right.
I think so. I mean, again, using the Legacy Project as
Which is a nice model.
and that model, and I've actually heard it play out, you know, because there's discussions that are going on right now, but and part of it is looking at it from the values.
Can you,
And does it fit?
can you remember what those are?
You know, I know one is economic development because
Economic development, cultural and historical, something like that.
Right.
Right? Environmental, and maybe public access?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. Those are like, I think, the 4 biggies. That sounds right.
but
It's in that ballpark. So,
I mean, again, those could be, are they calling them values or they?
yeah, they're
okay.
calling them values.
Yeah, I think values, I mean, would be a good term to use also, be consistent.
What about the rest of you?
Well, I can kind of see where you're going. I mean, we look now at the guiding principles and say, well, some of these look more like guiding principles for operations, you know, so you could back it up and say, are there some guiding principles or values that everything you do is inclusive, you know, or what word to use in terms of strategic planning. So yes, you're going to do early literacy, but how do you do it in the most inclusive way to meet the broadest community needs? So they're bigger picture. Some of these are maybe a little bit more focused on, like promoting excellence in customer service should be an operational value, you know, but maybe it's not a strategic plan value. I don't know, we've got maybe a little bit of mix and match. I think they're all still valuable statements of what people want, but whether the formatting of it or how it's used, because I don't know that you would go back and tie each of these guiding principles. Is there a goal and objective related to the guiding principle? Probably not. So I don't know
But
that I have a strong feeling, but it's just, I can see this sort of.
I agree with what you were saying in terms of the, that view and like the, some are not really, like, some of these are pretty descriptive in terms of operation, like you were saying, operations, and I hadn't really thought about it from that standpoint, so I think that's a good way to consider it also in terms of what's outlined as values.
I mean, a strategic plan is kind of where we're headed and what our your big picture vision.
Yeah, and
mission
what we're going to do
vision.
to get there.
Having just sat on the Oregon City Tourism Strategic Plan. I'm trying to use the framework we used there, because that was
Wow.
a slightly different framework. We
Yeah.
had a vision and mission that were very broad, but then it was more about, you know, I forget what their words, but like kind of who are you? You know, what's your stamp or something? Those aren't their words. I'm just trying
Brand?
brand, or, you know, getting at brand. I don't think we want brand, but like, what are you known for? You know,
Yeah, I was thinking.
so I mean, there's so many different ways to do strategic planning. So I think it's finding something that's helping us think about where we're headed to future and where we want to grow. Any thoughts down here? Sorry for you guys.
I
that,
don't know, I
you
like your
know,
conversation. I was listening to it.
too many
Larry?
public sector strategic planning.
Yeah.
This is a slightly different topic, but in looking at both the mission statement and the guiding principles, I miss the word quality. Not just to provide information, but to provide the best information, quality information, something of that sort, which also serves to protect us. If people ask, why don't you have X? And you say, that's not the standard work on the subject, we have limited budget and all that sort of thing.
That's great.
I was trying to remember that plaque you did that we all agreed to, and because that had some great values there. I mean, so how those values relate to these, or if that's really,
Oh, yeah.
because I think that had some of those same
Yeah.
concepts. Of
It's like, this
wanting
is
to-
your library, all are welcome. What else does it say? I haven't looked at it in a while.
I can't remember either, but that concept that all are welcome. We provided diverse perspectives and viewpoints.
Right.
You know, so that it's.
Well, and when I think of like the strategic plan, I kind of think of a package of things that the library can look to, you know, guide moving forward. And that we should always look to, because those need to help us. Like everything we do needs to be able to like be justified by what we've decided in our strategic plan, right? So I like the idea of values, and I like the idea of you guys being in on helping determine those, because I think that's a nice place where the community comes together with the library, and it also can like really help define like what else is in the package, you know, of strategic planning.
And I think overall, one of the purposes is to be in a position where if you have a controversy among ourselves, I mean, if there's a question on what's the best move, you want a document that you can go to say, what did we say we were going to do? And that kind of precludes people going off in odd directions. So I'm not saying it should be perfectly prescriptive,
Right.
but the values and so on should be something that you can look at in a concrete fashion and say, we've been asked to do this, or the staff thought we might do that. Does this fit within these? So that kind of specificity at that level, I think, is necessary to make it a useful document, rather than something that you file every 5 years and go away.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, you know, considering that our mission was to build a building for so long, you know, we could go a lot of directions, and there's a lot out there in the world that we can do, but, you know, only certain things can be done. And amongst the many things that could be appropriate for our community, you know, so what I'm going to suggest is we just like continue to think about this until we get more feedback from other groups about the mission and the vision, and then we can think more about how this fits in. And you know, probably honestly that wouldn't be until June, because if the stakeholders meet in May, then you know, I will hopefully have something to bring you in June, but even then it's going to be very rough, but that's okay. You can get the flavor of it and see how things fit together.
So are you expecting, like, are you envisioning that staff will do a vision mission statement, and then that'll go to the stakeholders group who will do this? Or
Yeah, I
is there
think
a
what we
point-
might come up with is like some fragments of sentences, or even a couple of statements that then we would like bring to the stakeholders and say, okay, this is what we've collected so far. Let's collect more, and we probably wouldn't start with that. You know, we'd probably start somewhere else. But Darcy's in charge of that. So I'm just providing what she tells me to provide at the right times that she says to provide it. So this is what we're doing now. But yeah, because it needs to be a melding, you know, or at least there needs to be agreement by our stakeholders group, and then you guys, you know, because that would all be draft until it comes here, and then we would run it up the flagpole with the city commission. And if we've done our job, then there shouldn't be a lot of controversy about the directions that we're headed in, you know? If we feel like we can really say, yes, this reflects the community, so.
I think this sort of makes sense, and I feel, you know, we have two, between Scott and Larry both on. You've heard the conversation, kind of where there may be interest or how it all fits together.
Yeah,
To represent us.
yeah. Sound good for now? Because I mean, I think there's a lot to it, and it doesn't need to be decided at any, like right now, we're not even there, you know? But I like the idea of mulling it over and, okay.
I mean, I
great.
think the principle I hear is that people are interested in a strategic plan that's useful.
Yeah,
It's not just like, oh, we did that, check it off and it sits, but that it does help guide. So if 3 years from now somebody says, why don't we create a theater group that's based out of the library?
Yeah.
Decide if that makes sense or not, you know?
well, and like when it comes to budget time, you know, we should be pulling out that plan, and we should be pulling out the budget, and then saying, you know, okay, this is where I think money should go. What do you guys think? It's like what we're going to continue to work on, et cetera. So it will be really helpful for how to expend, which is going to get tighter and tighter. So
For me, this was very helpful discussion.
good, great, awesome. I really like your idea, Nick, of the values.
Anything else on strategic planning? I think still just get an update next month wherever you're at. even
Oh,
if
yeah,
There's
yeah.
nothing to sort of totally bring, but, okay. Our next agenda item is what we call communications. It's kind of, I could think of it as liaison reports and other stuff, other partner groups. So we can do LDAC, Foundation and Friends, or any version of order of that.
Well, LDAC has reinvented itself. It's moving ahead now with 2 task forces, a small one and a large one. The small one is going to be talking very quickly to come up with, I don't know what they're going to come up with, I forget, some kind of recommendations for the 2 libraries that the county will help fund for Oak Lodge and Gladstone. And of course, there's a lawsuit in there that has to be kind of a driving force in that. So the stakeholders in that will be hashing that out so that everything is copacetic, and it looks like it's going to happen. It looks like there's a sense of cooperation. Is that,
Can I add to that?
yeah.
So, as you'll recall, the Gladstone and the county came to a settlement agreement, which was, the county was like, we're gonna take over the Gladstone Library, and we're gonna build the library in Gladstone and Oak Lodge, and we are going to use the district funds to do it. However, the master order that created the district said that you cannot use capital, or you cannot use district funds on capital. We've had this conversation a lot, right? And so the county council was pretty convinced that in order for those buildings to be built, the master order had to be changed so that that would be allowed. We got a lot of pushback on that. We actually have new county council, And other people have looked at the master order and we're not so convinced anymore that it actually has to be changed. So this small task force has got their first task is to determine with county council, does the master order need to be changed and does the master IGA need to be changed? The IGA being much more specific than the master order.
That's the intergovernmental
Agreement,
yeah.
yeah, very good, thank you.
Okay, I remember that.
I know, and I'm not supposed to use acronyms. Mayor Holliday would not like it. And so that's their first task. Wherever that goes, then they will keep working on it. But the idea is to get that little lawsuit and all that stuff moving forward in the direction that the agreement that they made to settle the lawsuit. And the library starting to get built and people being happy. So that's that. You're doing great, keep going.
Well, then the larger group, which I recall hasn't been formed yet, but will be, and they have a longer, excuse me, time frame. We'll be looking at some of the long range stuff that, for example, if I remember right, one of the Savas has mentioned some kind of a new plan so that a particular library district like Oregon City can draw a new line around itself and use that then as a money generator then for what it wants to do. They'll be looking at things like that. I mean, huge issues separate from the other districts, so that if you want to raise a bond issue and pay for it, go for it, but you're not going to put it on the other people. That's one thing I remember. What else?
So the large task force, which is probably, its work will probably continue for at least 2 years. We'll be looking at a lot of those issues that have really bogged down this conversation, the whole Gladstone conversation. So that's why they've been parsed apart. And it includes topics of, should district money go towards capital? Just like, let's discuss that. Is that appropriate? Is the rate that our tax rate of 39 cents per thousand value, assessed value, is that sustainable? I can tell you right now, no, it's not. It's not high enough. There will come a time when, because it doesn't ever go up according to any inflation or anything, it's just, that's what was passed. And so, just doing simple math, it's like staffing costs continue to go up and that doesn't. And if the valuation, of property will only continue to go up so much, at some point there'll be some tipping point where it won't go up anymore, right? And then what happens? So let's start talking about that now, well in advance. Because if we need to put another ballot measure or a bond measure on the ballot, then we need to be really, really well prepared for it. So let's talk about what that would look like. So that group wants to take on those really, really meaty issues. And it might even get split down into 3 subgroups. But we want representation from the library directors, from the city managers, from elected officials, from library boards. So it could be a pretty big unwieldy group. So what they're trying to figure out is how to even manage this conversation. And does one question have to be answered before the next question can be answered? What does that all look like? So I have no doubt that I will be drug into this since I'm the chair of the directors. And, but yeah, I'm happy to help in whatever way, but God bless Greg, the network director, because he's kind of charged with doing this. His boss, Laura Zentner, I believe is either acting or has been named the manager of, it's BDS or something. It's half of the county services. It's and she's fabulous, and so is Greg. Greg is fabulous. So the library has, all the libraries in Clackamas County have got great support from the county. Really, really good support. And the county manager is really nice too. So this is our time to think about this, because I think we've got eyes on us and it's a great time to be raising these issues. So they're hard issues, but we gotta deal with them sometime in some way. And so I think this is really great timing because we're never going to get more support than we have now. So,
And so they're responsible to staff things, the library, just Greg or
Greg, the network office.
network office, excuse
Greg
me.
Williams is the manager of that. That is an office that provides centralized services to all of the Link libraries throughout the entire county. And it is paid for out of the county general fund. So in the creation of the district, the county agreed to staff this office forever and ever out of the general fund. So that's another way that we really, really benefit. It doesn't come out of our district money, that gets sent directly to us. And Greg is awesome. So he's constantly also looking at like the Washington County model and seeing what they do centralized and comparing it, and then lobbying for more support from the county to see if, they can add staff or money or whatever, help pay for projects that benefit all the libraries. He's constantly lobbying on our behalf for that. So it's really helpful. So they provide all the courier, they provide all the software, and all that entails. And they actually, have a network and oversee like half of our computers. So we have 2 networks, city and county, in the same building. And we do Wi-Fi through the county. We do lots of things through them. So it's an odd arrangement, but we really benefit from that arrangement, in multiple ways. So
I'd vote for him for president.
Pardon?
I'd vote for him for
Oh
president.
man, I would in a heartbeat. He is a great guy. Yeah, he's a great guy. So right now also we have an amazing chair of the Library District Advisory Committee. Al Manteco is his name. He's from Happy Valley. He gets paid, I've heard, enormous amounts of money to do this in his real life, facilitate the meetings, and he has done an excellent job. I mean, he does not leave anybody out. He makes sure everything's going well with everybody, and that way we've been able to come to consensus on a lot of things. And it's just fabulous because it's gone from being the worst meeting possible to less than the worst, better than the worst,
Better than
whatever.
worse. Yeah, better than worse.
Yeah. No, it's much better now. And everybody agrees that it's much better now. So there's a lot more smiling faces around the table, I can tell you.
So the library report that we kind of looked at, that the new reporting form,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
going to be also?
Well, that'll be integrated in there, especially with the large group, because they will use that then to, for example, Canby came up with
Canby.
a spreadsheet showing how their, what's the kind word?
Robbed.
Okay, now they're being robbed by their city for all of these services like this, and they have it in line. They had to put on armor and march into City Hall to get these numbers out of there, and so here they are. I mean, so you got some gonzo librarians who are getting the numbers, but that could happen any place. It's just.
It depends a lot on the city manager.
City managers like money. It happened in Estacada, I know, for quite a few years.
Yeah. So going into the library district was an effort to help equalize, stabilize and help equalize services across the county. Mm-hmm. However, there were cities that never gave any money to their libraries. They were always county supported. Mm-hmm. And what this really did was it didn't take burden off of the cities as much as it took, the creation of the district took a burden off of the county more than it took a burden off of the cities. Because the cities that always gave money to their libraries still give money to their libraries. The cities that never gave money to their libraries still do not give money to their libraries. So Canby is one of those, Molalla, places like that. But in addition to not giving money to their libraries, now they charge, some of them, allocated costs.
Because we have district money coming in and they see it and they want some.
Well, they charge other departments in their city allocated costs, but those all come out of the general fund. These come out of the district, So it just reduces that library's ability to pay for things. And since we're a consortium, we're only as strong as our weakest link. So but how do you convince a city that really has no other money to do something different? They really have no other money. So, you're between a rock and a hard place. So the district, one of the questions they want to answer is like, what's appropriate for these cities to be doing? And so that's why city managers will be invited to the table to discuss this. And city managers are pretty hard to fight. We're very blessed here. We're very blessed. Yes.
Just a couple of comments since I've attended the last two meetings.
Yeah, thanks.
One is that given that there's the objective of sharing materials among all the libraries, and what they're doing from a central library standpoint is like the automation, technology oriented, using automation. I mean, it's remarkable how that is being supported to make that work better for everybody. And the other thing that's amazing to me, given the complexity of the library district, is the fact that it has the same master order in the same IGA with, I think there were two, from what I found, there were two amendments, but not small.
Yeah, very small.
But it's been 10 years that it's been operating under those guidelines and what they're doing. I mean, that's pretty remarkable when you think about it. So I think with the committee is really the broader committee is to also look at sort of where we are from that standpoint, and then, recommendations on where that could go. But I think it's, when you go through it and start studying it, it's an amazing, complex.
It's amazingly complex, and it's amazing that it works as well as it does.
Right.
Yeah. And of course, the library directors always feel like they're the ones with the targets on their back too. You're trying to balance keeping all these different populations happy. And the city managers have a lot of power in this. I mean, all the power. So it's really interesting, actually. I mean, when it's not a bad meeting, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the one. There's a good synopsis.
Yeah.
It's really
And so speaking of Nick, our recommendation, the library board's recommendation for him to be the liaison to this committee was approved. And so then it gets bumped up to the county commission, and I haven't talked to Greg to ask where that is, but it will get slipped into some meeting, and then we'll let you guys know when it's official, and Don will have done his duty
And on to something
to
else.
God and his country, and Nick will be the
taking
martyr.
on the mantle. So thank you to both of you. Thank you, Don, for what you've done, hanging out through
Hanging
the
out.
bad meetings to the good meetings.
Yeah, and now Nick is just gonna benefit.
You're just going to benefit from all your work.
I'm glad I can help.
Great. And then the sign, the leather group you were on, the sign, that's done? Is that one?
Well, it's doing.
Oh, okay, the sign. I
Yeah, it isn't
completely
done
forgot
yet,
about the sign. The permit is done. The sign maker has ordered materials. And as far as I know, he has started the sign, but I really need to ask him where he is on that. So thank you. Where are we? Because we should be getting wrapped up on that, actually.
Okay.
Does anybody know what the sign looks like? Okay.
Don does.
It does. I'm sorry I've not shown you guys a picture of it. It is going to be completely different, and it's going to be very nice. And I even thought so.
The neon and the flashing lights.
Right? Can you even imagine?
Yeah.
Very
McLaughlin neighborhood.
Very tasteful.
Yeah.
Right.
Dancing lizards.
That's right.
Well, we had to, no, that's
No, we had
expensive.
dancing librarians. Yeah. You can only imagine.
Yeah, he's dancing librarians. I like
That's,
that.
oh, we didn't think about that,
A
did
little
we?
risque. Yeah.
Okay. And did you do Friends?
Yes, I went to the Friends board meeting a couple hours ago, and it was not contentious. They're very nice people, and they're all working together. And I find it sounds a lot different than what he's been going through.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And
Much better.
of course, they're all volunteer people, and they're all doing things that they want to do. And it didn't appear to me that they were desperate for anything. But they were thinking of trying to increase their ability to communicate through the internet and come up with a website that can actually be used.
So they can sell some stuff over the internet, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, so
And-
people
and
can
for
apply
people to know their-
for membership online and pay for that online.
stuff like
and
that.
stuff.
So it seems like they've got pretty good ideas. And one thing that did pop up is they figure that they may be out of the building in 3 years. Because of the,
Right. So the building they're in across the street has been purchased and is being completely remodeled. And they had a 5-year lease, and so that lease is being honored, but they have about 3.5 years to go on it. They figure at the end of that time, their rent is gonna be just too high to maintain. And it's high already, but like price per square foot is very good. And so they're gonna have to be making some decisions here in the next few years about what that group is gonna continue to look like over time. And yeah, I don't know, so it will evolve. And they do have like, some younger, newer members that have been getting involved and working at the bookstore and all that stuff. So they're adding to their membership, but it's mostly older retired people, and Harriet is almost 80, and she's like, I'm not gonna be doing this much longer, my time is almost done. So we're getting ready to see a big evolution of the Friends group, I think, in the next 3 to 5 years.
yeah, I think what they really need is to have more people walk in the door. And sometimes it's hard to do.
They do amazingly. I mean, they're remarkable. They're miracle workers. For an all volunteer operation, they're open like 6 days a week. They've got very good hours, and they're constantly pushing money at me. They gave us $1,000 today towards summer reading programs that I believe will be put towards. The theme this summer is Libraries Rock, and so we'll be having family concerts once a week for, 8 weeks or something, during the day, once a week, starting early in the summer, so they won't really conflict that much with the concerts in the park. And so they gave us $1,000 towards those programs. That was our request. And they're like, and there's more where that came from. And it's like, well, that's great, that's awesome. So they're fabulous.
Thanks for attending. You're not just wandering in, you're our official rep.
Whenever.
He got to meet everybody. He did great.
And then I attended the foundation meeting as kind of representing you. That was a couple weeks ago. It was our first meeting, I think, in 2018. They've had a change in officers. So the new chair is Pam Bloom and Secretary Karen Martini. I think they kind of switched. Linda continues as treasurer. I think they're doing some work on policies that were suggested by their accountant to just kind of firm up their foundation procedures, given that they had a lot of money coming in now, just make sure that they're solid in their sort of accounting and follow through. And then most of the other discussion was about like what next, I mean, they raised a lot of money and kind of where do we go from here? I think there's some interest in doing maybe a spring solicitation from the foundation, just sort of saying, keep up the momentum, help us keep building the catalog, of materials. Mostly they don't want to interfere with the Friends, which are going to be doing a fall kind of push for their 20-year anniversary. So I think there's more commitment to work to focus with the Friends on the fall push so that people are supporting the Friends work in their 20-year celebration. Probably plan a fall joint meeting with the Friends really after the strategic plan is done. I think there's a lot of interest in seeing kind of what comes out of the strategic plan and how do both the foundation and Friends support that. How does that drive some of what they do? And probably do another fall donor thank you event in the evening with wine and food, because everybody asked, like, when can we do that again?
You discovered how much people love drinking wine in the library after hours.
That's right.
Why not keep doing that, you know?
Steel City.
So again, they'll probably look at like, late September, early October, again, trying not to compete with the Friends, doing something probably more middle November. So again, the Friends doing their 20-year anniversary celebration, so.
So, speaking of those dates, I do have some dates for you from the Friends. So first of all, the library and the Friends are collaborating on a Good Morning Oregon City on April 4th. That starts at 7:30 a.m. So that's the weekly chamber meeting that you're all welcome to come to. We'll have breakfasty things over at the library. And then the Friends are going to do I forget the official name, but it's like Chamber After Hours. And it's like a once a month event, and they're gonna do the November one, and that would be in honor of their 20th anniversary. They're talking about doing a early December annual meeting luncheon, which is like actually when they usually have it. And that will be like a bigger celebration of their anniversary. So they really are giving some thought to their anniversary, their 20-year anniversary now. And then I just wanted to note that Jan said about the joint meeting. We are so fortunate and blessed that our Friends and our foundation actually intentionally get together once a year and try to coordinate and discuss what each group does and how they could all work together for the benefit of the library. And it wasn't always like this, and it is not like this everywhere. So I just want to make sure you guys know that that's like, it's a big deal, and it tell you horror stories from other communities. So
And there may also be some interest in having library board members attend that, to be part
oh
of
yeah,
that.
please, yeah.
That joint
If
meeting.
you guys can attend any or all of these things, it would be great.
There's drinks at all of them, right?
Well, there's coffee at the morning one, but maybe we could slip you a mimosa or something. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we are blessed to be very well supported in this community.
Yeah, the Good Morning America, Good Morning Oregon City, the GMOCs.
We called it Good Morning America.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
had that on the agenda by accident.
GMOCs.
Yeah.
They do usually bring 50 to 75 people
Yeah.
out, so it's a pretty good, well-attended chamber.
It's
event.
very well attended. Yeah.
Any other groups that we're in partnership with or liaison to, or? Okay.
Not that I
I
can
can't think of
of.
anything, but, okay. Future agenda items. Just again, an update on strategic plan. Anything else?
I wanted to look out at the calendar and suggest that maybe we, if there's really nothing happening, that we may not meet 1 month or, as appropriate. It seems to me like I had a month where there might be a conflict, and I wanted to suggest that, but I need to get back with you guys. But we
Like
don't.
summertime stuff, right?
Usually
Summertime stuff.
Summertime we often
just
take a
sometimes
month
August
off.
or something, yeah.
Yeah, so let's look at that, and I will get back with you next time. Yeah,
May depend on kind of where your strategic
Yeah,
plan cycle
exactly.
is, right?
exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
Anything else that people want updates on, or
Good.
no? For future meetings? Anything you want Mo to do?
Just tell me, other duties as assigned.
Okay. Then the meeting is adjourned at 6:12 p.m. Great.